Discover the hidden puppeteers pulling the strings of your hard-earned money in the fascinating world of who controls all of our money. Welcome back to our channel, dear viewers. Today, we're delving into a topic that affects every aspect of our lives: money. We all use it, we work hard for it, but do we really understand it? Today, we're going on a journey to explore the hidden world of finance. Buckle up because we're going deep into the question, who controls all of our money? So, without further ado, let's begin. The Enigmatic Central Banks. Central banks, often shrouded in a veil of secrecy, hold tremendous power over the fate of our currencies, and by extension, our economies. With the exception of a few outliers like Cuba, North Korea, and Iran, almost every nation worldwide has its own central bank. These institutions wield a considerable influence, responsible for printing currency, setting interest rates, and overseeing the operations of commercial banks. Interestingly, these central banks are typically designed to be independent entities, distinct from the government, a fact that many people are unaware of. The Federal Reserve in the United States and the Reserve Bank of India, RBI, are prime examples of such institutions, each with the power to shape the nation's monetary policy and financial stability. Central banks have a significant impact on your everyday life, yet their workings remain enigmatic to most. When you think about it, the essence of our modern economic system revolves around these institutions. The golden anchor. The history of money is a tale as old as civilization itself, a tale that has evolved alongside human societies. After World War II, the US dollar rose to prominence as the world's reserve currency, effectively meaning that other nations kept significant reserves of it. This meant that all other currencies became, to varying degrees, anchored to the US dollar, hence tying your nation's financial well-being to the monetary policies set by the Federal Reserve. In the early days of this arrangement, the US dollar was backed by and exchangeable for a fixed amount of gold, creating stability in international finance. However, things took a dramatic turn in 1971 when the US economy was grappling with the costs of the Vietnam War. At that point, many central banks worldwide grew apprehensive that the US dollar might plummet in value, so they sought to exchange their vast dollar reserves for gold. This is when President Nixon made a historic decision by taking the US dollar off the gold standard, creating a system of floating exchange rates. The consequence of this act was profound. It meant that the US dollar, which held the world's currency systems together, was no longer backed by a tangible asset like gold. The world now had to rely on trust in the stability of the US government, marking the inception of the Fiat Currency era. Money's true nature, Fiat Currency. But what is Fiat Currency and how does it operate? Well, in simple terms, it's money that derives its value solely from the decree of a government. In other words, a piece of paper or a digital entry has worth because the government says it does. This peculiar characteristic of money may seem baffling, but it's the essence of our modern economic system. When governments need additional funds for various purposes, they don't just print more banknotes. Instead, they issue bonds, essentially IOUs, and present them to their respective central banks. In return, the central bank starts printing more money, effectively creating it out of thin air. The question that arises here is where the central bank gets this newly minted money. The intriguing answer is nowhere. It's not as if there's a vault full of cash backing these transactions. In fact, when you or I write a check, it's necessary to have sufficient funds to cover it. But when the central bank writes a check, it's essentially generating money from a metaphorical account that holds nothing but promises. The concept of money being created from thin air may challenge your conventional understanding of currency, and it raises another fundamental question. What backs our money if it's not gold or a tangible asset, but rather trust in the system? The mysterious role of commercial banks. Now, here's where it gets even more intriguing. While central banks have a significant role in our monetary system, most of the money we use daily isn't directly created by them. This is where commercial banks step onto the stage. You might think that when you deposit your hard-earned money in your local bank, it's still yours, sitting securely in some vault. In reality, as soon as you deposit it, the bank assumes ownership. They promise to return it to you when you ask for it. But it's technically their asset at that point. It's a puzzling notion for many. revealing a stark disconnect between our perception of our bank accounts and the reality of the banking system. But let's dive even deeper. Many people believe that banks function as intermediaries, taking money from savers and lending it to borrowers. While this is partly true, the full picture is far more intricate. Consider this. Let's say Steve wants to buy a shiny new car for $90,000, and Mark has diligently deposited $100,000 in the same bank. You'd think that the bank lends Mark's $100,000 to Steve, but that's not quite accurate. Instead, the bank keeps a fraction in reserve, say $10,000, and then, by the magic of digital technology, loans the remaining $90,000 to Steve, who can now buy his car. Interestingly, the total money in the system remains $100,000, but Steve and Mark together can now collectively spend $190,000. This, my friends, is where the intrigue peaks. Fractional reserve banking and the inflation effect. But let's consider the consequences of this process. When more loans are issued, more money is effectively created, and it enters the broader financial ecosystem. This increase in the money supply, without a proportional increase in economic output, can lead to a phenomenon we're all familiar with: inflation. Inflation means that the money you hold in your wallet or bank account becomes less valuable over time, making prices of goods and services rise. In a way, it's like a hidden tax on your savings, steadily eroding their purchasing power. This fractional reserve system underscores a key facet of our modern economy. The power to create money often resides within the keystrokes of bankers. Today, nearly 97% of all new US dollars are created digitally, with only a tiny fraction represented by physical notes and coins. Commercial banks wield the power of fractional reserve lending, allowing them to lend out significantly more money than they hold in reserves. It's a system that confounds many, but it's at the core of our financial world. When we ponder, who controls all of our money? The answer is multifaceted. Central banks, commercial banks, and governments all play pivotal roles in the complex web of our financial system. Yet, what's perhaps most intriguing is that the value of our money, in the end, is based on trust. It's faith in the system, in governments, and in the belief that we can exchange our units of currency for goods and services. If you found this video informative, make sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more eye-opening content. Thanks for watching.